Hello and welcome to Indie Business Radio, where we empower you to enjoy your life, build your business, and have your way. I'm your host, Donna Maria, and it is Monday, March the 29th, and I can hardly believe that April is almost here. And you know what? That means it's tax time. So we are all, as small business owners, focused more than ever at this time of year to make sure that we are creating the money-making, profit-making synergies that make our business work. And you know, if you pay any attention to the latest unemployment statistics, which I really don't pay a whole lot of attention to, but I do like to stay informed, you probably know that we have more to be intentional about than ever before when it comes to creating opportunities to secure our financial future. There was a time when the only real way to do that for Main Streeters like us was to get a good education and then get a good job. And you know, those are still excellent goals. But a newer kid on the block must also be considered. Well, it's not really new. I quit my job 10 years ago to launch the Indie Business Network. But that's okay. For a lot of people, it is new. And it can also be scary and daunting, especially for those who have never really considered small business ownership, but are now looking into it because they may be recently laid off or just feeling a little bit insecure about their traditional job security today. To help us sort through some of these issues, our guest today is the one and only small biz lady herself. Her name is Melinda Emerson. She is the author of the newly released book entitled Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, a month-by-month guide to a business that works. Melinda Emerson is the CEO of MFE Consulting LLC and also Quintessence Media. She is the host of Small Biz Chat on Twitter. She's an author, a speaker, and a small business coach, and she has a great deal of expertise when it comes to helping businesses get started off on the right foot. She blogs at As Your Own Boss. Let me not butcher that. She blogs at succeedasYourOwnBoss.com, and she joins us today from her office in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Welcome to the show, Melinda.
Thank you so much, Donna Maria. I'm so happy to be here with you.
If you're listening to the show at indiebusinessradio.com, make sure you click on the chat link so you can join us live in the chat room and tweet some of the fantastic tips and things that you'll be learning from Melinda today, and also to share your own tips. I'm so excited to get started. So, Melinda, let's start by just sharing a little bit about how you started your business.
Well, I guess we have to back it up a little bit. I went to school to be a journalist, a television journalist, and when I got out of college, I became a television producer, and I worked for 3 stations, 1 in Pittsburgh and 2 in the Philadelphia market, as a news producer. And I knew when I was in college that one day I wanted to own my own production company. And honestly, it was inspired by Oprah Winfrey. When I was in college, Oprah Winfrey opened Harpo Studios, and I'll never forget it because it was the summer I was an intern for the Today Show in New York. And I just remember being completely fascinated by the fact that this woman not only owned her own creative product, but then cut her own syndication deal with King World, found an abandoned warehouse on Southside Chicago, built it into this state-of-the-art studio, and even owned the parking lot outside. And I remember as a sophomore thinking, you know what, I'm going to do that too. So, you know, fast forward 7 years, I worked in the news business, and I just was like, you know what, I got to the point where I could not write one more murder or one more fire. I just could not do it because I knew that there was something bigger out there for me to do. So in 1999, I left my good job and started Quintessence Multimedia, which was my television production company, which I still have to this day.
Melinda, what was it like to leave that good job?
You know what? It was interesting because there were all kind of people that were like, girl, what are you talking about? People work their whole career to get to market for television. You know, what are you doing? And honestly, I was making a lot of money, you know, and it was a big leap, but it was a leap I knew I had to make. I remember getting headaches on the way to work in the morning because that's how much I hated going there. So I knew I had to get free. But I prepared myself before I did that.
Good.
Because I got myself down to zero debt. And that included paying off my car. I mean, I got myself down to where I could survive on bare bones essential money. And that's what it takes to get free. You know, you can't get free with a whole bunch of credit card debt. You cannot do it.
Right? You felt good? It sounds like you really felt good.
I did. I was skipping out the door. I mean, I was like, bye-bye, y'all. You know, I mean, and it's funny now because, you know, fast forward 10, 11 years, all of those people that I left in those television stations, now all those people are getting laid off because the technology has changed and they didn't keep their skills up to date.
Oh, that sounds like such a familiar story. So, and thank you for sharing that, too. It's very inspiring to see that it can be done. We're talking to a real person who's actually done it. This is not theory. There's a lot of theory out there, but we're talking to someone on Indie Business Radio today who has actually done it, and she's going to share not only from what she knows in her head, but from what she knows in terms of having experienced in her life. So let's back up for a second, and let's get some, I guess, definitions straight. The first thing I want to ask you about is there a difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur? And if so, what is that difference and why does it matter?
Well, I think the difference between business owner and entrepreneur is simply the mindset. When you step out on faith and you start your business, the first thing you have to do is make sure that you have an entrepreneurial mindset. And what do I mean by that? The first thing that you need to understand is that when you are an entrepreneur, you kill for your dinner every day. That means you are competitive. You're willing to charge people what they should be charged for your product or service. That means that you are self-confident. That means that you are a lifelong learner and that you are coachable. And those are the traits of an entrepreneur. A business owner is somebody who has created a job for themselves.
And what do you mean by that? I've heard that a lot, creating a job for yourself. How do you know?
It's like a cash flow business. It's like I'm doing this because I need money to pay my bills. There's no strategy around that.
Okay.
That's not a scalable business. Those are the kind of people that start businesses without a business plan.
And let's talk about that for a second, because tell me this. Don't a lot of businesses start because they need the money? I mean, today I'm looking at a lot of people who are laid off, never considered business ownership before, and what's leading them into this idea and this notion is not so much that they've always wanted to be a business owner or they were inspired by someone as you were, but they kind of have to, and they do have to do it to eat. Don't a lot of businesses start that way?
Some do, but those are businesses. A lot of times the people that start those kind of businesses are passing time until they can get another job. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not really creating a business that is sustainable. You know, they are doing money. They are, generating money, putting out their shingle so they can, keep the bills flowing. But it's really not a business that's scalable, that's going to be able to employ people, that's going to be able to, one day get them on the Inc. 500. That's just not, and that's okay, because I think that, there are a lot of very successsul lifestyle businesses out here, and I think that's fine. I don't think everybody needs to be trying to have an IPO on Wall Street, but at the same time, I think that no matter what kind of business people want to start and what kind of situation people find themselves in, the number one thing that they have to do is develop a life plan so that they figure out what they really want out of life and then build a business around that. If they do that, whether they start out because they have to or they start out because they always wanted to be an entrepreneur, they're going to be on the right track. A lot of times I've seen people start businesses that aren't good businesses for them, even though they might be a great business. But they hate it, or they take over the family business because that was what they were kind of told to do. So they did that. The business was going well, but they hated coming to work every day.
Yeah.
So you just have to make sure. Like be clear about what you want out of life and build a business around that. That is powerful, and people feed off of that kind of energy. People love to do business with people who love what they do. We've all been to that fast food restaurant with Sister Girl who really didn't want to be there. Right? And you know what that feels like when somebody's practically you know what that feels like when somebody's practically throwing their food at you. It's like, look, it's not my fault you behind the register, babe, No,
let me
need to have a plan.
Let me ask you this. I have heard a world famous entrepreneur and business owner Donald Trump say this. I'm paraphrasing, can't remember the exact quote, but it did stand out to me. He said, "Not everyone has what it takes to become a successful business owner." What do you say about that, and how do you help people determine whether they do have what it takes to do some of the things that you describe in your book to succeed in 12 months?
I do believe that that statement is true. I do not believe that everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. And the reason why I say that is because when you work a job, you do, let's say, 2 to 3 jobs in that one job. Nowadays in America, that's what it takes to keep a job. You got to be doing 2 or 3 jobs, right? But when you become an entrepreneur, you're doing 10 to 13 jobs. And a lot of people just do not multitask at that level well. You know, you got to do that 10 to 13 until you can get big enough to, hire you a controller or a payroll manager or, get somebody to handle the marketing and sales. You got to do all those jobs. And a lot of people can't handle that level of stress. They can't handle that level of multitasking. And they just are so risk averse that they're going to be up at night every night because they just can't believe what they just did. And so I think, again, it goes back to life planning. Know thyself before thy starts a business. And be honest. Because a lot of times what I find is that we always think we're good at some stuff that we might not be good at.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I tell people to do, ask your friends. Ask people close to you. Ask your mentor what they think your strengths are. And see if the list matches up. Because many times the list doesn't.
Well, let's just get started on our list then. And, it's interesting that you talk about that life plan first. I really want to explore that a little bit, Melinda, because you say, and your book says, that is really the key to making it all work. So let's dig really deep into that when you say know thyself, when you say create your life plan. Do you mean that everything has to be, perfectly mapped out before you start a business? Or what are the things that you mean when you say that?
What I mean about life plan is just really understanding what you want. Are you a mom? Are you a single mom? Do you have a husband that travels all the time? Do you need to be able to meet the bus at 3:00 every day?
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that's really important to you? Or are you somebody who wants to be able to be off every Friday because you want to volunteer at your kid's school? Are you somebody who, the life plan is really about you evaluating what kind of energy you have to run this business, evaluating what skills you have and what skills you need to run your kind of business.
Mm-hmm.
And then really figuring out, okay, how much money do I need to make? Do I want enough money to take, a few nice vacations a year and to keep a nice home? Or do I want enough money to buy my own island?
Melinda, do you recommend that people today, even if they have a full-time job, a good one too, a real good one, that they even like, that they enjoy doing, do you recommend that at some level, even those people consider at some point the real possibility of exploring starting some kind of business of their own?
Absolutely. I mean, nowadays, corporate jobs are not promised to anybody anymore. The days of working 30 years and getting a gold watch, that's gone. This is freelance America, 1099 city. So I think it's really important, especially for people with good jobs, because those are the people that are getting taken out now. They kind of went through their years of knocking out the frontline, hourly wage employee. It's the mid-level managers, even senior-level managers, people with director and VP in front of their title is getting laid off now. So I like to give you an analogy.
Please.
Kobe Bryant is an employee.
Mm-hmm.
He works for the Los Angeles Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that he knows how much his jersey is worth? It should be the same thing for people working in corporate America. Do you know how much your jersey is worth? Because regardless of who writes your paycheck, you need to know how you earn it. And thus, when you know that information, you can translate that into doing something else.
Right, right. So you know your own value. And that really does, doesn't it, Melinda? That really does put everything that you do and all the effort you put into a traditional job into a whole other context, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Somebody else signs your paycheck, but you earn it. So you need to know what your jersey is worth. You know, you salesperson out there making millions of dollars for your company, you need to know what your take of that really is and how that's calculated.
Yeah,
and how you could do that for yourself.
That's not something they're going to readily share with you. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that with Melinda, and also we're going to pick her brain about how we put together this life plan that we need to compile before or at least as we start planning our business. This is Indie Business Radio. I'm your host, Donna Maria. We'll be right back.
Why is everyone listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com? Because it's the future of talk radio. Every day, more and more people are finding Internet radio as not just an alternative media, but as a replacement to traditional AM and FM broadcast stations. Internet radio offers a wider variety of programs, convenient on-demand listening that meets your schedule, and fewer commercial interruptions. And GlobalTalkRadio.com is already leading the way by matching this content with a highly targeted Internet audience. GlobalTalkRadio.com offers its listeners one of the widest programming varieties on the Internet, from business and finance to self-improvement, paranormal, health, literature, romance, politics, and more. There are also opportunities for prospective hosts who would like to host their own weekly or one-time talk shows. Want to learn more? Check us out at www.globaltalkradio.com and see the future of talk radio today.
Welcome back to Indie Business Radio. We're here this afternoon talking with Melinda Emerson. She is the author of a brand new book, and it is a wonderful book, I might add. I've been enjoying it myself. It's called Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. And, of course, you can get that at Amazon. You can also go to succeedasYourOwnBoss.com and download a free chapter and also click on a link to purchase it there as well. So, Melinda, a few minutes ago before we took our break, we were talking about sort of how to financially or mathematically evaluate what your value is and kind of compare that to what your salary may be at your company. I just wanted to share an example and see what you think about this. When I was an attorney at a law firm, I billed out a certain hourly rate. So every hour that I worked and billed, the firm would bill that out to a client at that rate. And I thought I was making really good money, which I really was, actually. I'm very thankful for the salary, and I was definitely blessed. But when I did that calculation and looked at the hundreds upon hundreds of thousands, multiple thousands of dollars I was bringing in for the law firm, and looked at my paycheck, which was really pretty good, I was astounded to see what the difference was. Is that what you mean by checking out what your value is as to compare to what you're actually paid at a traditional job?
Absolutely. I think you need to know what your time is worth and what you would be willing to give it away for. You know, is it $50,000? Is it $35,000? What is it that you get paid, and what is it that you're really worth? And once you start calculating that stuff, you start figuring out, you know what, entrepreneurship might really be for me. Because if I can do this for them, what could I do for myself?
And so for people who don't bill out an hourly rate like I did, they could just look at people who are doing their work on a freelance basis to get an idea of what they're charging, and they can do that calculation themselves, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. But you just need to know. Everybody needs to know what their jersey is worth,
right?
Regardless of whether you're working for somebody or working in your business. Because the other thing, the reverse of that is, a lot of times small business owners are working and working and working and working and working all these hours, and their jersey isn't worth very much.
Yeah, and we want to avoid that. And one of the ways that you say we can avoid that is by taking a look and following and incorporating your Emerson business plan that's in your book. Let's talk for a few minutes about some of the highlights there, Melinda.
Well, my Emerson planning system really is sort of like the cornerstone of what this book is built on. It's a 6-step system to transition from having a job to starting a business. The first step of it is developing a life plan. We've already talked about that, but you need to really be clear about what you want out of life and then build a business around that. The second step of the Emerson planning system is developing a financial plan. Here's the deal. If you don't run your household with a budget, you're not going to run your business with a budget. So I walk you through looking at a budget, looking at your net worth, and then looking at ways you can cut back and conserve as you move forward to transition out of your job. Because once you cut that paycheck off, it's off. And you want to make sure that you are financially stable before you do that. So I lay out a lot of great stories and systems for how to do that in the book. And then step 3 is really looking at what your business idea is, what skills you have, and what skills you need to run that kind of business. The 4th step is developing a marketing plan. Now, I know some of you might be like, okay, why is she talking about marketing plan outside of the business plan? It's simply because of this. If you don't know who's buying and why they're buying from you, you really shouldn't waste your time writing a business plan because you don't have much of a business. And the 5th step is a critical step, and that is writing a business plan. And when I say write a business plan, I don't mean just the words. I mean the numbers, too. You need to make sure that you have 3 years of financial projections for your business so that you have something to measure. The reason why we write business plans is so we know where we're going and we can look at what we projected versus what we actually spent. We can look at what we projected versus what we actually sold. And that's the information you need to make sure that your business is on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
And step 6 is starting the business, which I suggest as much as possible. I believe you should start the business while you're still working, if you can. Now, if you're starting a retail business and you got to be in a mall every day, obviously you can't be in 2 places at once. But if you're starting an internet business or you're starting a consulting business, I say do it as a side hustle until you just can't take it no more, and also till the side hustle is making enough money to at least 60% of what you're making at your job before you quit. That's really my suggestion.
I like that side hustle till you just can't take it anymore. And, you know, for anybody who is looking to do retail, I don't know if this helps anyone or not. I actually had a retail store that was open part-time like a crazy woman when I had my full-time job. We were open on weekends and Tuesdays and Thursday evenings from 7 to 9. And it was crazy, but I learned a lot. And so you can be creative, right, Melinda, even if, you know, there's not always a blueprint, and your steps are awesome. But, you know, the real value is when we look at the Emerson planning system and we input the aspects of our lives, the aspects of things we like, don't like, are good at, are bad at, into that, right? That's the real value of it, is adding your own pieces.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I want to say, too, is that my 12-month timeline is ideal. It is not meant to be restrictive. I mean, sometimes you get laid off. Sometimes they throw a package out there and you need to take it. So sometimes you don't have the luxury of 12 months. But if you do, this is the best way to do it. I promise. It's a proven method. I didn't just start doing this. I have been an entrepreneur over 11 years. I have been a small business coach for over 5 years. So I have walked people through this system, and it works.
Well, can you give us a little mini case study in the time we have left in the second segment? Don't use any names, of course, but just an example of someone that's kind of, you know, gone through this process and been successful at it.
Well, I have a client or a former client really, who wanted to start a business in the professional fundraising arena, you know, working with nonprofits and corporations who were looking for corporate sponsorship. And she was sort of like one of my first, you know, I hate to use this word, guinea pigs, really, for my system as I developed it. And, you know, her business is doing gangbusters now. She is a top thought leader in her industry, and she has a website that, you know, major players, longtime fundraising executive quote from my client's website and blog and materials and her ebook.
Mm-hmm.
And so she did what I told her. We met when she was still working a job, and she was the director of development at a local nonprofit, very large marquee nonprofit in the Philadelphia area. And I helped her. I helped her transition, and she was one of the first people that used my system. And I'm so proud of her because she did what I told her, and she executed, and she now has the greenbacks to show for it.
And what are some of the things, Melinda, that she did especially well, and maybe one or two areas that, that she may have struggled in but overcame to be successful?
Well, one of the things that she did is she saved 20% of every paycheck she got after we started working together. I'm going to say that again. She saved 20% of every paycheck that we had.
And she saved that she would have her cushion to start her business?
Yeah, she paid off her car.
Mm-hmm.
She got her finances straight.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was somebody that had good credit, so she didn't have to work on her credit, but she didn't have much savings. I mean, she didn't have any cushion. I mean, she didn't have jack. And so she really prepared herself well. When she got bonuses, she saved 50% of them in her I'm going to start my business fund.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she was very disciplined about it. She also invested in herself. She went to lots of workshops and trainings and, on, becoming a successful consultant. She also, looked into becoming a professional speaker, so she became involved in NSA, the National Speakers Association. So she did a lot of the things that she needed to do to prepare and sharpen her knife, and she just became a student of running a business. And that's what you need to do to be successful. Let me tell you something. I have a journalism degree. I did not walk in a business school the whole 4 years I was in college, even though I knew one day I wanted to start a business. So how I've learned everything that I know is the hard way. But I will tell you this, every year, for the first 10 years I was in business, I went to somebody's training course. I went to Harvard. I went to the Dartmouth School of Business at University of Virginia. I went to Dartmouth in Vermont for executive education programs. I also signed up for Leadership Inc. I did the Urban League Leadership Institute. Any course you could take. I did the Provincial Young Entrepreneurs Training Program. Anything I could to sharpen my knife and learn the business of running a business. Everybody's got good ideas. Ideas are not the problem. It's those 13 jobs that we talked about earlier that get people in trouble and that really make entrepreneurship overwhelming for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And these kinds of trainings are really so available in just about every city and small town in the whole country. At a minimum, there's the Small Business Administration field offices, which have great training, and always community colleges.
Community colleges, small business development centers, women's business development centers, the SBA, plus there's a lot of other third-party organizations, micro-enterprise organizations that provide training and programs. And so, there's no excuse for somebody to not to be able to find a business plan course. There's no excuse for somebody to not to be able to find a course on, managing cash flow and understanding the numbers in your business. No excuse at all.
And I'm so glad you're mentioning this because there's so much out there, especially on the Internet and on every lamppost you drive by on the street today, that says it's really easy to start your online business and make $1 million in your bunny slippers.
Yeah, those people should be sued for malpractice for even putting that stuff.
I'm certainly glad that you're sharing the real deal. And, and one of the other things I love about your book, as I just said, is that it is real and it tells the truth and it lets people know that while it's not impossible, Melinda, it's not easy. It's not as easy as people sometimes make it seem. But with the steps that you offer in the Emerson planning system, you certainly move people far ahead of the curve when they start their business.
I tried to. I mean, this is the book I wish I had read 12 years ago. And let me tell you something. I'm a voracious reader of books. People that work for me feel like they work in a library.
Mm-hmm.
I read every book out there, and I never read this book. That's why I wrote it.
So, Melinda, let's talk about people who may not be in a happy financial position, which so many people aren't today. The economy, is kind of lousy, although we don't focus on that. It's always important to know, the circumstances in which you find yourself. And some people are in a position where, they may have maxed out a few more credit cards than they want to and a crunch is on. What are some of your tips for moving forward with some ideas for a business and making them happen, even though maybe you don't have the luxury of paying off all your credit cards and paying off your cards before you get started?
That's a really tough question, because I am a person that believes that you need to get yourself in a position so that you can make decisions that are the right decisions for your business and not decisions based on your personal debt and your creditors. Mm-hmm. I really think that it's important as much as you can to reduce and get rid of particularly credit card debt before you start your business. And the reason why is because you're going to need that credit card, the credit from your credit cards in many cases as capacity to grow your business. It's very difficult to get a loan as a startup business. And even if you get a loan, they're going to want 30% of the money you need to come from you. So if you want $100,000, they're going to be looking for $30,000 to come out of your pocket before they're willing to give you the other 70. So you just don't want to have a bunch of credit cards and things maxed out, because you won't be able to survive. It really takes 18 months just to get to the point where where some money is coming back into you as opposed to money just going out. And
we're talking this afternoon with Melinda Emerson, author of Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, a month-by-month guide to a business that works. Excellent, hard-hitting, real-deal advice from Small Biz Lady here on Indie Business Radio. We're going to take our final break right now. We'll be right back to talk with Melinda some more about being successful in your small business. This is Indie Business Radio. We'll be right back.
Want to stay on top of what's new in the radio industry? Sign up for a free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio, available exclusively to listeners of globaltalkradio.com, and find out what's new in the world of online radio. Listeners can find out about new shows and special guests. People with something special to offer can find out how to become a guest and how to prepare for an interview. And prospective hosts will find a valuable resource for everything from planning their new program to selecting topics and guests, recouping expenses by selling advertising, and more. Sign up today for your free subscription to the Future of Talk Radio by visiting www.globaltalkradio.com and learn about the future of talk radio today.
Welcome back to Indie Business Radio for our final segment with Small Biz Lady Melinda Emerson, author of Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months. We've been talking with her about the importance of getting your financial house in order and other life planning issues that really need to take place in conjunction with starting a business of your own. And Melinda, we've been talking about, starting a business, but what about for people who already have a business and maybe they've reached a lull or a plateau and they kind of feel like they need to step up their game? What are some of the tips that you have for them?
Well, there's a lot of things. I think that there are 5 reasons why small businesses fail. The first reason is because people don't spend the time to really think about what their life is going to be like as an entrepreneur, so like no life plan. The second reason is because people have no network to sell to. It's amazing to me how often people start a business, or even if it's a home-based business, and they like being in their house in their slippers at their computer running their business, as opposed to going out to networking functions, getting out there, going to their trade industry functions and, conferences. And that's a really important thing, because your network is your net worth when you are in business. The third reason why small businesses fail is because they lack a niche target market. They try to sell to anybody that they think has money. Well, the problem with that strategy is you don't get known for anything. Sometimes it's important to be known for the business that you turn down. But you really need to know who your customer is, how they buy, when they buy, and what they need, so you can anticipate their needs and come with that next product or service. The fourth reason why small businesses fail is because people do not save enough money before they start their business. So their debt starts dictating their financial decisions as opposed to up-to-date financial information on how their business is running. And the fifth reason why small businesses fail is because people lack fiscal discipline. You must run your business with up-to-date financial information. You need to make sure that you have an accountant or a bookkeeper that is developing financial statements for you every month, a statement of cash flow, a balance sheet, and a P&L, a profit and loss statement. Those are really, really important. And if something's going wrong in your business, I guarantee you it's one or two of the 5 things that I just described.
Excellent. And so these are really great tips, and these are in your book too, right, for people who, aren't just starting out but really have been at it for a while and just need to tighten things up.
Absolutely. I have been told that my book is a professional development course for someone who's already in business. Maybe they started really fast, they lost a job and they, jumped into business. And sometimes you need to move backwards. You need to kind of step back and look at the things that you need to tighten up so that you can move forward. The deal with my book is this. The first 10 chapters are about how to start a business. The last 12 chapters are about how to run one successfully. So I don't believe this book is just for people who are starting out, although it's excellent for people that are just starting out. I sure wish a book like this was out there when I started my business. But certainly for people who are already in it, in the grind, and they might be struggling, or something might not be working the way they thought it would, check out what's in the book. I think it can help you, absolutely. And certainly if you need advice around how to build a social media brand and how to connect that to your brick-and-mortar business, or if you have an online business, there's great detail and information in the book about that.
Yeah, it is really tremendous, and I love that you have connected a lot of these different dots. Melinda, let's talk for a second about what you talked about a little bit earlier in the sense of, having your debt, your financial situation, dictate your business decisions. That really does tie your hands, doesn't it?
It really does. You really do need to get down to zero debt as much as you possibly can. Now, I'm not saying you need to pay off your house. No, that is not what I'm saying. But you do need to certainly get rid of any credit card bills because you're going to need those credit cards probably as cash advances to invest in your business. The other thing you've got to do is think about not only do you have to have money to run your business, but you've got to have money to sustain your household while your business is running. A true story. The first year that I started my business, my air conditioner in my house broke on the hottest day in July. And I had to come out of pocket $6,000 to get a new HVAC system in my house. And oh, by the way, I was a single girl back then. So everything was all on me. And if I hadn't had money in a savings account that was an emergency savings account just for my household, my business would have been finished before it had gotten started.
You would have been sweating into your laptop.
Girl, look, it was unbearable. It was like Alabama. And, it was ridiculous how hot it was in Philadelphia that summer. And so those are the things that you have to think about. There are 3 pools of money that you should have before you start a business. Ideally, you need to have an emergency savings account, which my girl Susie Orman has been talking about for forever and ever. 6 to 8 months of money set aside in an emergency savings account. Then you need to have a year or 2 worth of money to run your household. And the third pot of money you need is that operating money to run your business. Because even if you get a loan, let's say you get a micro loan, which could go up to $35,000, or let's say you luck up and let's say you get a franchise and they might have some financing. Well, like I said earlier, even if you get a loan, 30% of the money that you need is going to have to come from you. And then after you get that loan, you're still going to need the money to operate the business. That money's probably going to be for your fit out of your facility or, the equipment that you need to buy. They're not going to give you all the money that you need. You still got to have the money to operate the business.
And Melinda, when you started your business, as you just told us, even though you might have been sweating for a few days there in July, you were a single girl. You had nothing to worry about but yourself. Let's talk for a second to people who are parents, and they don't have a business yet. They want to start a business, and whether they have a job or not. But, I'd like for you to talk about, and you are married now, and you have a child. So let's talk for a second about some of your best tips for creating that successful kind of synergy and integration that needs to work in order to juggle all those balls?
Well, the number one thing, if you are married and you are a parent, you've got to have a family meeting. You've got to tell everybody about your business idea and get buy-in, because you're not going to be sacrificing and cutting back by yourself. Everybody is going to have to be bought into it, and particularly your spouse, because in a lot of cases, if you're fortunate, the spouse can still keep working a full-time job and be providing the health care benefits and maybe be doing the lion's share of, paying the mortgage and paying the bills while you use your resources to get this business off the ground.
That does help, doesn't it?
Look, it would have been great to start out that way. If I would have had it like that, I would have loved it. But, I didn't get married until the second year, almost the end of the second year of my business. And, even then, it was like a high-level negotiation about who was going to pay what. So I will tell you that it's really important for you to have your spouse's buy-in before you start your business, and here's why. It is really hard to launch a business. And if you're going to hear negativity every time you come home, or every time you've been in Saturday at a session all day Saturday learning about your business or going to a workshop or something, you're going to hear a bunch of static and a bunch of negativity, you're not going to make it.
That's such an excellent point. I so agree with that wholeheartedly, especially since I have two children and run my business actually with my husband. And, I love it when the Indie Beauty Network members join us here on the show, and we've got someone here who has a question for you. Bernadette at Nika Naturals has a question, Melinda. She says, balance is important for success. What are your suggestions on balancing your networking efforts with other tasks associated with your business, like, creating products that must be done in order to generate revenue?
Well, I have a fantastic blog post that I wrote a couple of weeks ago called The Right Way to Make Sales Calls for Your Small Business. And I would love for you to go to my blog, which is succeedasyourOwnBoss.com, and look it up. It was just a couple of weeks ago that I posted that. But here's what I want to say to you. Do it like you do anything else. Schedule time. I see here that you want to, networking events are important. When you first start out in your business, you need to be going through 500 to 1,000 business cards every 2 months. That's how much you need to be out there. You have to let the world know that you are open for business. But by the same token, you need to make sure that you are following up with your orders and processing credit cards and, having the opportunity to develop products. So I would say mark out days of the week to do that. I only make sales calls in my business on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays between the hours of 10 and 3. Monday is a day that I spend heavily using social media. Wednesday after 3 o'clock is a day that I spend heavily doing social media because I host Small Biz Chat every Wednesday evening. And then Friday, I try really hard not to make any appointments and see anybody on Fridays, because Fridays is my day to tighten up all the stuff that I need to follow up on, send emails, send out invoices, mail out products, mail out brochures. Anything I promised somebody I would do during the week, I try to make sure before I leave on Friday. And most Friday nights I work late.
So what you're really out there is the importance of systems, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to, what you don't want to do is be a yo-yo running from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, which is really easy because time management is one of the top issues that small businesses, particularly solopreneurs, have, because you are, one-arm man wallpaper hanger every single day when you open the door or, go down in your basement or go in your back bedroom and put the headset on. You rocking and rolling. And so you have to make sure that you set up time for yourself so that you don't make yourself crazy.
Good. Such good advice. Thank you for that wonderful question, Bernadette. That issue of systems is so important. I love that you mentioned that, no matter what kind of business you have. And you know what? A lot of people think that, why does it have to be so systematized and so rote? And you knew exactly, on Wednesdays after this time I'm doing this, on Mondays I'm doing that. And that's really what it takes, isn't it, Melinda?
And don't call me on Wednesday at 8 o'clock during Small Biz Chat. I have had to train my friends and my family. On Wednesday night you can find me on Twitter from 8 to 9. Do not call me. I will cut you, So it's really important that you train everybody around you and that you do have systems and that they are consistent. Because it's like with children. Children need routines. Small business owners need routines. Mm-hmm. You got to set it up so that everybody knows. Absolutely. It's your other baby.
Other baby.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. Well, this is wonderful advice coming from Melinda Emerson, succeedasYourOwnBoss.com. She is the author of this fantastic book, Becoming Your Own Boss in 12 Months. So, Melinda, you know what? A lot of overarching themes from what you're sharing today, but one of them that really stands out to me has got to be the issue of patience. Because you talk about on the front end the importance of winnowing down your debt as much as you can. And that, before you even start a business, that's a test of patience right there, is it not?
Absolutely, absolutely. But you also have to be patient with yourself. You know, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you can't beat yourself up. You know, I have a saying that I tell people, you know, sometimes you are the chicken, and sometimes you are the chicken salad, okay? When you are the chicken, you wake up in the morning racing for the sun every day. But then there are days when you got a client that calls you on the phone and will completely cuss you out from the scalp of your head to the soles of your feet. Or you have an employee that just won't work and has 1,000 excuses, and you just need to cut them out like the canker sore that they are out of your business. And those are days when I say, you know what? That's a chicken salad day. Mm-hmm. So you know what the best solution is for a chicken salad day? A good night's sleep. Just walk away. Have a good dinner with your family and go to bed. And wake up the next day and fight it again another day.
Absolutely.
We all have days like that. I'm the small biz lady, and I have days like that where I just have to be like, you know what, Lord, let me just go home. Let me just cut the lights out of my office and lock the door and leave.
Then the work's not going anywhere, so it'll be there. And that's another point that raises, the importance of what you said earlier about connecting with other people. Do you find that connecting with other small business owners sort of is your periodic reality check, too? Because if you're the only one feeling overwhelmed and you think you may be the only one and you're pulling your hair out, doesn't it help to connect with some other people who have those days, too, chicken salad days?
Absolutely. You know what? Isolation is the enemy of entrepreneurship. And when you are alone, that's when you have the opportunity for your mind to run wild and to defeat you. And what you need to do is make sure that you have a kitchen cabinet of advisors around you, people who care about you, people that are interested in your success. Hopefully one of them is an entrepreneur who's been doing it much longer than you, who can give you the benefit of their experience. Hopefully one of the other people is somebody who has done business with you or could do business with you. Hopefully one of them is just like a senior executive or somebody who's retired who has some time that they can just give you some advice that they can give you about how you can do better, be better. And lastly, somebody who's a professional, maybe a lawyer, maybe an accountant, somebody who you might not be able to pay for their services but who would just, give you advice in exchange for food. I love people that will work for pizza, so I believe that you need to have a kitchen cabinet of advisors around you so that you can bounce ideas off of them in a safe environment so that you can know that you're not alone, because you're not. I also think Twitter is an excellent resource for that. Sometimes I just get on Twitter and I just say, morning tweeps. Right. I get so much love back. Like, hey, small biz lady, how it is? What's going on? And I need that. People don't know how much I love it when they just say hello to me or when they retweet my stuff or my blog post or tell me, Melinda, I loved your latest blog post. I really, truly appreciate when people do that because that lets me know that my tree didn't fall in the woods and nobody heard it fall.
That is such good advice. What a great analogy, too. We've got Alyssa at Vintage Body Spa, who is so thankful to you. She just shared this on Twitter for your good advice, especially where the balance issues are concerned. And also, Melinda, we've got Asia Fogel, who actually says she just bought a copy of your book. She's so excited about the information that you're sharing here. So this is really, we have packed a ton of small biz ladies' tips and insights into our time here together, and unfortunately we have come to the end of it. I hate that, but all good things must come to an end. Melinda, before we go, tell us, where is the best place to connect more with you online?
Well, if anyone's interested in my book, you can get more information about my book and place an order at BecomeYourOwnBossBook.com. You can also buy my book in bookstores nationwide. Barnes & Noble and Borders have my books across the country, and certainly you can jump on Amazon and get you a copy for sure. So Those are all the ways that you can get my book. But if you want more information about me, I have a blog. It's succeedasyourownboss.com. My name is Small Biz Lady on Twitter. I also have melindaemerson.com. So all you got to do is really Google my name. You can Google Melinda Emerson or Small Biz Lady, and you can find me. So I have lots of great information. And also, too, I'm doing a free teleseminar tonight on how to transition from having a job to starting a business. So if you look in my Twitter stream at Small Biz Lady, you can get the Eventbrite link to come on and get on with us tonight. And I'm going to be really breaking it down, how to transition from having a job to starting a business for free tonight. So if you want to jump on that, you're more than welcome. We're doing it at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, so it's going to be from 7 to 8 tonight.
Melinda Emerson, author of the new book, Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, a month-by-month guide to a business that works. Thank you for joining us today. Coming up next week on Indie Business Radio, now you know you can make a whole lot of money and you can be sitting in a chair all day long, not fit, just as flabby as you can be. And you all know that I have been stepping up my fitness game, and I have a lot of people around me. I got my fitness cabinet, Melinda, in place to help me and other people be empowered to...
Well, you need to email me their information is what you need to do.
Excellent. We need to make sure that we do this. This is very important. It's not going to do us any good to have a successful business if we're not healthy enough to run it. So next week, on April 5th, we've got Laura McLean. She's going to be talking with us about being fit and being fit as a business owner. She is a marathon runner and the editor of Run Mama Run news blog. She's also the creator of the Run Mama Medal Rack, and she's going to be sharing how running, which is such a good cardio exercise, helps us to build strong families and strong businesses and strong business relationships. Tips for beginner runners will be highlighted. I'm really excited about that. And then coming up on April the 19th, we've got Hollis Thomases, author of Twitter Marketing, an Hour a Day. She's going to share her secrets of Twitter efficiency and effectiveness. To find out when all of my shows are scheduled, visit indiebusinessradio.com, where you can also get 5 years of archives of my interviews with some of the most amazing, innovative small business strategists on the planet. Check it out at indiebusinessradio.com. I'll see you next week when we'll be talking about health and fitness once again here on Indie Business Radio. In the meantime, enjoy your life, build your business, and have your way.
You're listening to GlobalTalkRadio.com.